Hey, I'm Anthony Romano, and this video is going to tell you how to target your belly fat, your abdominal fat, the waist fat, the visceral fat, with keto dieting. So the thing is, you have to remember, calories in, calories out is not the only way to lose body fat, okay? It's just one way to gain leverage on your body's fuel economy, okay? The other way to do it is to target the fuel storage hormone, insulin, and diminish it, okay? That is essentially the way keto works. It's by gaining leverage on the fuel storage hormone rather than on the total amount of fuel coming in. And this is why people oftentimes will lose 20-30 pounds of body fat before they even have to start counting calories on a keto diet. Eventually, they will have to integrate some calorie restriction in order to get to advanced levels of fat loss, and you can check that out in the Keto Shred program, which is going to be dropping very soon, probably out, a couple weeks after this video. But essentially, this is something that eventually you merge both sides of the coin with. But you have to realize there are two sides of the coin. There's the quantity total, which everybody looks at, and then there's the quality of the foods you're eating and the hormones they're trying to spike. So essentially, you can target either side and still get fat loss, and in the case of keto, you're targeting hormones that actually correlate to specific areas of body fat storage. So I'm going to get into this in this video. I encourage you to like it. I encourage you to share it with your social media feed. This is all you can do to help me grow my page and to make YouTube show my content to more people. So let's get into this video. Trying to make this video quick, and I'm going to give you a couple breadcrumbs as to why keto is so powerful at targeting belly fat, okay? Why are there so many different transformation stories of people on the internet losing 20-30 pounds without even having to count calories, and most of it started to come off from the belly and waist area up front? Why is this? Well, it's because keto focuses on targeting insulin, as I said in the beginning. So what does insulin have to do with belly fat and waist fat? Well, we know there are correlations between your waist size with higher levels of insulin resistance, okay? So this means you have too much insulin coming in all the time, right? Being created from high sugar diet, high carb diet to high calorie diet. This has created insulin resistance, and your body now has to produce more insulin, lots of insulin, for insulin to do its job, which is basically escort nutrients into tissues and basically, shuttle glucose into muscles, things like that. Okay, so basically, you have too much insulin coming in all the time, you become resistant, and your body starts storing more fat in the waist. Now, granted, the other way to look at this data is that simply people who get too overweight have bigger waists, and we already know that since they're overweight, they're going to be insulin resistant. So it is a correlation. I'm not exactly saying that, if somebody, that everyone, I can't say your exact sensitivity to insulin in every tissue of your body, but I can tell you that keto targets the hormone that, when spiked in excess, leads to bigger waists, bigger bellies, okay? That is what I can tell you. So here's the actual metrics here for you to take home. If you are a man and you have a waist over 36 inches, you are generally at some level of insulin resistance. If you are a woman, then if your waist is over about 38 inches, then you have some level of insulin resistance. Now, granted, this is not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's just numbers that we know are surefire correlations between insulin resistance and, belly fat. So when we're talking about, getting rid of this insulin resistance, we know that you will not have it if your waist is below those sizes. So that's, one sort of gauge for you to assess if you do have insulin resistance, but chances are, if you came to this video, you might already be at that area, or you've gotten past it at some point in your life. So there's other correlations as well associated with this. For example, the more insulin sensitive you have, if you're a man, you're going to have more testosterone. So an easy way to get a little, assessment of this is, again, look at your waist size. If your waist size is 30 inches and, you're insulin sensitive by that definition, you are going to have more testosterone. Granted, if you are a small person, if you're a bit tall person, these numbers can vary a bit, right? But in general, if you have a waist that's 40 inches, we know your testosterone is not going to be as optimal as it can be. And there's other benefits associated with, more insulin sensitivity beyond just testosterone. I mean, longevity, there's a lot of other things, okay? Especially for women as well. It's not just the males and testosterone. A lot of other hormones are going to be optimized by being more insulin sensitive, because insulin is the most anabolic hormone in the body. It is the fuel storage hormone. So if you get a better ability to use fuel storage hormone, a lot of other things improve. Now, let's get into visceral fat. We know keto targets visceral fat. What does this mean? This means fat that is stored around your organs in your abdominal cavity. So one thing we know is that because of this severe drop in insulin, this massive drop in insulin, you are going to create more fat burn, because once your insulin goes low, your glucagon goes up, which is a hormone that basically is the reciprocant of insulin. And when your insulin is so low, your body has to start mobilizing fat. That is the purpose of glucagon. So visceral fat is often one of the things that starts, getting tapped into in a deeper capacity when you're on keto compared to a calories in carb-based diet. Doesn't mean that a carb-based diet cannot work. It just means that there are specific properties to keto working for belly fat. So specific areas of body fat removal is largely a subjective thing. Like, I can't say where the body fat is going to come off of first on you specifically. It might get off of your back, it might be your face. I don't know where it's going to come off of first, but we do know that there are some hard and fast stops about where the body prefers to store fat and where it doesn't. For example, visceral fat. We have some objectivity here. We know that visceral fat is largely not an area where the body prefers to store body fat, okay? It generally comes as a result of having too much fat coming in the subcutaneous layer, or from certain types of sugars, or basically inflammation, cortisol, any other trigger like that that's going to make the body want to store it around organs rather than, subcutaneous body fat layer, like around your chest or something, okay? So a lot of times, this is one area where we do have some hard and fast stop. We know that, of course, jacked up insulin resistance is going to lead to some sort of objectivity with regards to fat storage around the waist. But visceral fat is something that we actually have more of a grasp on, because we know it's not the first place body wants to store fat. So why does that matter with keto? Well, the reason why it matters is because when you are eating keto, you're not taking in carbohydrates. Of course, this could lead to less inflammation, things like that, but that's a little bit more speculative of an answer that I'm willing to give for this. In general, one thing we do know, and there's great work on this from plenty of people, plenty of experts in the field, one that I can think of that references it is Dr. Jason Fung, but when you have lots of sugar coming in, some is going to go to your liver, okay? Especially if you're having lots of fructose, which is the type of sugar from fruit. It directly goes to the liver, and it helps fill up your liver glycogen, which is your backup team of carbs. So if you're slamming lots of sugar to an organ, to your liver, the primary detoxification organ, okay, this is obviously going to lead to perhaps more fat storage around the organs. It makes sense, right? So that's just one example. But we know that there are other causes of visceral fat storage. In general, the easy way to say it is, oh yeah, if you just get really fat and the more fat you get, some of it's going to go to your organs. But doesn't it make a lot more sense that by slamming carbs and sugar to a certain organ, especially if it's not in a controlled amount, because fructose has never been shown to be problematic in small amounts, when it's in excess, slamming it to an organ can lead to more fat storage. And most people don't realize that everything is sweetened with fructose. And I'm not just picking on fruits here. Fructose is the most mentally rewarding, dopamine spiking sugar because it goes to your liver. Because your body thinks, oh, we have some sugar going to the backup team, we can live an extra week, right? We can run through extra glucose slowly. So that's why it creates such a dopamine response, and companies will use little bits of fructose, little bits of high fructose corn syrup, little bits of glucose fructose syrup, and they will slip them into the foods because they know you're only looking at the total calories and macros. They know you're not reading the little label where it says those ingredients, and you're not going to discriminate against them. So even if you're on a carb, calorie-based diet and you're controlling your macros, the thing is you're not going to eliminate those foods from coming in. You're taking no measures to discriminate against them like a keto diet would. So you're preventing the types of sugars that are most commonly used to sweeten even the calorie-friendly foods from getting into your diet at all. So when you're trying to place this in the sort of keto diet and why it makes sense, again, you're not allowing your body to store extra sugar, okay? Of course, it's going to make carbs. Your liver is going to make carbs through gluconeogenesis every single day, pure sugar. But this is largely for the brain, a little bit for muscle tissues. This is something that is never going to be in excess, and it's not actually going to get stored in your liver because the primary, way to instigate ketosis is to clear your liver of carb stores. So you're literally clearing your organ, your liver, of sugar, which could lead to fat storage. So that's one way to kind of grab the bull by the horns. As an example, alcoholic fatty liver disease. How do people get storage of fat around a certain organ, right, from consuming alcohol? Well, if you're slamming too much for the liver to metabolize, it'll eventually damage the liver and prevent the ability to properly process fats and store them and whatnot. So when we get into fructose consumption and excesses of it, keyword excesses, what's going to happen is you are going to be slamming the liver, making it work hard if you're having too much, and causing a similar problem. They're very similar problems, these two. Fructose in excess and alcoholic fatty liver disease. So when we're looking at ketogenic diets, you are not consuming fructose at all. This is sugar from fruit, okay? And I mean, if somebody tells you can have fruit on keto, they're wrong, and you shouldn't listen to them. And you should listen to somebody who's been doing keto for a decade, like myself, or some of the other great resources out there, because there are a lot of great people who also have advice on keto on YouTube, and I've tried to learn a good bit from them as well, and share the knowledge, and everybody can learn from each other. But the point is, when we're talking about fructose being slammed to the liver, you are not going to get any of this on keto, because that's the purpose of keto. You're not consuming any carbs, any sugar. And when you don't slam the liver, you don't ruin the ability for it to break down fats, process them properly. You take the ease off of it and prevent storage of fat around the liver, for example. So it's a similar process for a lot of other organs, and targeting insulin resistance is the key to minimize visceral fat overall. This is something that we do know, okay? So granted, I can't tell you again if all your belly fat and waist size is from visceral fat entirely. You can get a scale to figure it out. I've talked about different scales, and maybe I have one in the description. But either way, the point is, when we're targeting insulin and minimizing that insulin resistance, you are going to, on the whole, have less visceral fat storage. So overall, this has been some of the tips as to why keto targets belly fat. And of course, there's lots of other benefits of keto. You're going to be less hungry. You're going to have more controlled appetite, better cognitive enhancements, right? Better focus. You're not going to be dependent on food. So there's a lot of other things that play into keto as a net gain weight loss strategy, right? Like creating better adherence to the diet, because it's all these other benefits of making it easier. But the point is, it actually has mechanisms which specifically target, waist fat and belly fat. So that's all I'm going to say for this video. Perhaps I'll make a more dense one with more research papers popping up. But this is just to give you an idea about the mechanisms that are at play here. Like this video, share it, follow my Instagram, follow my YouTube, and leave me some questions and comments. I will do my best to get back to you. I always try to respond to everybody as soon as I can, and I probably get to about 90% of the comments. So, thank you for watching. Anthony Romano, peace.